So some weeks back, we did a podcast-style interview with RLT's own Craig Levine, and some clips of that were taken and put out as shorts on YouTube, and we got some interesting comments on some of these. So I want to go through these, talk about the comment, and also maybe take a learning opportunity on a few of these. Warning, this video contains copious amounts of sarcasm. Viewer discretion is advised. Didn't we just have a holiday about becoming our own country over taxes? I'm assuming he's referring to the 4th of July, because that's around the time this video was published. Yeah, we did just have that holiday. So the American Revolution was a lot of things. If you're an historian like me, you can kind of talk about the nuances of it. There was a tax on tea, and that led to the Boston Tea Party, which led to ultimately the American Revolution. And what's interesting about our current tax system is we've actually had two different income taxes. The first income tax system ran for a few years and was then subsequently abolished. The tax system we have now was actually instituted by a constitutional amendment. A lot of people don't know this, but in order for Congress to impose an income tax on American citizens, they had to amend the Constitution, and they follow the process. It's a valid constitutional amendment, just like any other amendment would be. And so now Congress does have that authority to tax U.S. citizens on their income. So yeah, you'll see plenty of comments on the internet about, oh, we started a war over a small tax on tea. Now we pay 10 times that in income tax. I mean, yeah. You could say it was a death by 1,000 cuts because, taxes on the federal level were slowly instituted on Americans' income. Again, first system came in, got abolished, second system came in by amendment, and then, decades later, they added Social Security and Medicare. You could make the argument that these are additional income taxes because they are a percentage of your income. Others will make the argument that they're not. We're not going to get into too much subjectivity here, but you actually used to not get taxed on your Social Security payments in retirement, and then late in the 20th century, a bill was passed to change that, to impose taxes on Social Security income. I believe one Senator Joe Biden was actually the sponsor of that bill. A little fun historical fact for you there. ATL Traveler writes, bro, I fought the state of Indiana for over a year. They claimed I owed taxes despite moving out of my state literally on the 1st of January and started my job a week later in Georgia. It was a pain in the arse, but eventually I won. This does happen. So sometimes clients will ask me like, okay, do I just pay all my state and federal taxes through the IRS website? Well, no, the IRS is a federal agency. It's part of the federal government. Every state that imposes taxes has its own agency on the state level that administers and enforces that tax, usually a DOR or Department of Revenue. And some state DORs are notoriously aggressive. Virginia's probably at the top of that list right next to California. These are states where the DOR, they want to get the money that they believe they are owed. Now, in this case, this gentleman won his case, and it's most likely because, as of that 1st of January, he had completely removed what we call his nexus from the state of Indiana. Nexus is a fancy way of saying you have a tax presence within a jurisdiction. So he removed his nexus, but Indiana wanted to tax him anyway, and it sounds like he eventually won. So it just goes to show sometimes the government does get overly aggressive. Sometimes they do go over the line, and sometimes if you take them to court, you win. There are many such cases where people have gone to USTC, United States Tax Court, against the IRS, against the commissioner, and they have won their case. And a lot of precedent that we use today in tax strategy was set by those very cases rather than by any kind of piece of legislation. I legit thought it said Texas. Texas is a cool place. A+ on Texas. Oh, this is a fun comment right here. This only really applies to people who are laundering money or tax evasion. No. A business owner who takes no salary but uses the company funds to buy I'm assuming he meant things, would be considered tax evasion. Not necessarily. So tax evasion is in large part defined as using deception, using an act of fraud to try and trick the government so you don't have to pay taxes. That is absolutely tax evasion. That will absolutely get you a criminal charge. That will absolutely land you in prison, Al Capone. A lot of people who own a business, they take deductions, like they'll have the company pay for personal effects and such, and they'll deduct it because someone on the internet told them they could, or someone at their B&I group told them they could, and they have a good faith belief, somehow they do, that their deductions are valid. That's not necessarily tax evasion. Now, it's invalid deductions, and in an audit situation, the IRS would most likely disallow a lot of those deductions, and they'd be correct to do so. And you would be in that scenario where, unless you can prove that your deductions were real, you're not going to get to deduct those from your taxes. But that doesn't necessarily make it evasion. If company funds are buying things, then it means the company is buying something instead of you. If the company buys something that is considered ordinary and necessary, you're allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Companies do it all the time. Maybe you've heard of this company called Apple that has a ton of money in the bank, that spends a lot of money on business things. Maybe you've heard of this company called Amazon. They spend a lot of money on things that Amazon needs because they're a company. They need to run. This is especially true if it's 12 to 13K, since that's the standard deduction amount. Well, first of all, the standard deduction has to do with personal taxes. It has nothing to do with business taxes. And I think at this point, this guy's just making things up. Really, this only applies, remember, we're talking about, IRS being right by default here. Really, this only applies when you dictate your own salary since you own the business. I don't know where he got that from. I don't know where you are reading this, but you should probably look some of these things up before you write a comment on the internet, and you should probably use a spell check as well. That way you'll at least come off as trying to be intelligent. If you guys have specific questions, or if you want me to bust a specific myth, leave comments below this video, leave comments on our other videos. We are reading them. We'll do a future video like this again, and we'll answer some of your questions. We'll respond to some of your commentary. Just don't be like Daniel Jimes here, where you're just making stuff up. Try and come up with an educated way to frame your comments so that we can all learn something from it at the end of the day. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to check out reallifetrading.com. We're about to film a video on why I actually joined RLT, and I'm going to reveal that no, I'm not being paid to say nice things about RLT. It's quite legitimate, and I'll give you my whole little story here in our next video. So I'll see you soon.